Hello everyone and welcome to this video about the basic operation of a GAGGIA Classic with BOOSTBOX on it. Obviously we need to preheat the machine, so turn it on. I'm gonna leave it on for about 15 minutes. One thing what I normally do if I'm in a rush, I miss to turn it on time. I turn it on steam mode straight away. I let it to heat up to steam mode and then switch it back to brew mode. So once it reaches about 150 Celsius and it cools down, and in my understanding it heats up most of the component in a really short period of time. So this way, after hitting 150, I turn it back to brew mode, and in about 5 minutes the temperature settles to the desired brew temperature. So I normally brew on 93, and once that 5 minutes gone, it is pretty much close to the ideal temperature. I mean, all the components. But this time we're gonna go the proper way. So I turn it on and I'm gonna wait for about 15 minutes. So see you after that time. So it's about 5 minutes left of the 15. I thought I'm gonna talk you through some things. Probably most of them is just the way I make coffee, to understand why do I do how I do it. But start with the basics. Obviously I don't need to speak a lot about the PID display. Damien has a brilliant video about how to deal with settings. About the BOOSTBOX, you have your pressure gauge, you have your dimmer dial. It's normally zeroed at 6 o'clock. And the other only thing is the switch for the LED at the rear right corner of the BOOSTBOX. You can turn the LED lights on or off, just in case you prefer so. So I'm gonna make a single. What I do, I also do, well, I named it super extraction because of these beans I'm using 8.5 grams, and I will get the output of about 13 grams, so it's much closer to a ristretto than an espresso. But I will extract it in about 40-45 seconds, including the pre-infusion, the soaking period. I'm using a hand grinder. Love these fellow containers, vacuum containers. So I just weigh out 8.5 grams. It's too much already. I love my hand grinder. This is the Comandante C40. What I do, I just steer it with a wet spoon handle just to get rid of most of the statics. Crank it for about a minute. So, we're almost at 15 minutes now. What I found out, according to the singles, it is really important to dose into your filter basket in a really nice coned shape. So you actually have to mirror the profile of the filter basket, because you know single baskets have a rather unique shape. And that means they are more deep at the center and more shallow at close to the edge. That's why if you use a distribution tool on a single basket, in my opinion, what you do, you make a higher density around the perimeter and a lower density at the center of the puck. But this way I will compress the grounds pretty much the same to the same density around the perimeter and also at the center. I'm using a 50. Oh no, I'm not using it now. Where is my glass? Oh yeah, there we are. So just do a quick flush. And then I'm using my own temper. I 3D printed it. It is 58.5 mil. But only tamping slightly. Well, this doesn't really matter, you do however you want to. But the reason I love this temper, not sure if you would be able to pick it up, it has a really sharp edge. There is a kind of groove at the bottom, so when I finish tamping and spin it around, what it does, it is removing the coffee ground from the side of the filter basket. So literally there is no coffee grounds on the side wall of the basket. I also use a paper filter on top of the puck. I know there are plenty of stainless steel filters nowadays for that reason. Somehow I prefer the paper. I also reuse these quite a few times before they get clogged. And then I also smoothen it on top of the puck. And why I really love this, I have a kind of rim at the edge of the puck, so no coffee grounds gonna get to the shower screen. So this way I pretty much skip backflushing on my machine. Only ever backflush if I have a really oily bean. Otherwise, just backflush it twice a year probably. Yeah, the scale is probably the cheapest ever being produced. I think I bought it for £5 British. And now I set the dimmer to about, let's say, 11 o'clock. Intrashot temp surfing. So what I'm going to do now, turn to steam mode for about a second, start the brew. What I did with that temp surfing, well, it wasn't really Intrashot, because yes, and there we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm ramping it up to 7 bars, watching the flow rate and slowly decreasing the pressure. It is a lever-like shot. 9 grams out, 10 grams out. Yeah, that was a bit too early, but it was about 42 seconds and 12.7 grams out of 8.5 in. Get rid of that. Ramp up the dimmer and flush the machine. So what you see in there, the Intrashot temp surfing, it is the ability you can turn to steam mode throughout the brew. You can't do it on a basic classic because once you hit the steam button, the solenoid valve gonna close, and whatever you had on top of the coffee puck, that's gonna come through the outlet tube to the drip tray. So that's not handy because those are the senses of your coffee. Obviously, to do Intrashot temp surfing, oh yeah, leave it on steam. You will need to practice. You will need to get used to your flow rate and also your ratio. By saying that I mean, you will have to get some practice to understand how much of a steam temperature hitting, because when you hit into steam, your boiler gonna heat continuously. Instead of when you are on brew mode, you just have blinks of a heating. And before hitting the brew button, before starting to pump fresh cold water into your boiler, I like to preheat it for about a second. That's to prepare your boiler of the freshly intake of room temperature water from the water reservoir. Throughout the longer shot, I also add a kind of boost of the temperature. It didn't work out this time really well. Normally, you can find another video about nothing but Intrashot temp surfing. When I do my practice shot, then I can stay within plus minus half Celsius, which is, I think, quite impressive, because normally the PIDs, no matter if it's an Ober or a Mr. Shades or mine, normally those have a temperature swing of 3, 4, 5 Celsius. Now, steam boost, what it does, because when you're steaming, you only have a tiny little boiler. It's only about 80 ccm, and obviously once you run out of liquid there and the steam, it's not going anywhere further. What you can do with the boost box, you can set your dimmer to a really low setting, and I also like to set the steam temperature slightly higher than normally, because basically I know I keep them on 137 Celsius, but whenever I use the steam boost, I like to add another 10 Celsius, so set it to 147. That means your boiler gonna be hotter, but it gonna help to compensate for the cold water what you introduce to the boiler while you are steaming. So to do this, it is important, and that leads us to the I think the only drawback of the boost box. Whenever you are in steam mode, water will, and if you trigger the pump, water will come through the brew group as well. So not only the steam one, but the group head as well. But to come over that, you should have a blank filter basket. So we're only gonna have any output through the steam one. And the dimmer set to a minimum settings, so it can really slowly introduce water to the boiler. Kind of, it keeps replenishing it, and it also adds a really minimal pressure to the boiler. Now, I'm not into steaming milk at all. I'm not drinking milk drinks, but I'm gonna try it just to show, just to demonstrate how do I do the steam boost. So what I will start with is to hit the brew button, and add a bit more juice. Probably it wasn't a good idea to put milk in here, because I won't be able to demonstrate how long you will have continuous and nice powerful steam. It's already too hot. It is already too hot. But at least I showed you how the steam boost works. Literally, I could get steam output from there for minutes. Let me just... So leave it on there.